After several attempts on Ibrahim Traore's life, Vladimir Putin has decided to bolster Traore's security. Since the October 2022 coup in Burkina Faso, President Ibrahim Traore has made several high-profile visits to Russia to meet and discuss with his counterpart Vladimir Putin and other senior officials. These meetings have resulted in bilateral agreements covering security and economic and political cooperation. The Russia-Traore partnership represents a significant geopolitical shift in the Sahel, potentially undermining Western influence in the region, a situation that bears close watching in the coming years. Russia has been providing military equipment and training to Burkina Faso's armed forces. This includes the delivery of light weapons, armored vehicles, and even fighter jets. They have also deployed private military contractors to assist in counter-terrorism operations against Islamic militants in the region. Russia and Burkina Faso have signed deals to increase trade and investment, particularly in the mining and energy sectors. Russia has also expressed interest in gaining access to Burkina Faso's considerable gold and uranium reserves. But the relationship between Traore and Russia is not without tensions. Traore has struck a delicate balance, maintaining ties with Russia and France, which still has a military presence in the country. There are also concerns within Burkina Faso about over-reliance on Russia and the potential consequences that may arise. Russia is sending more help to Ibrahim Traore to deal with his foes, and that will be the focus of today's video. Before we ride on, please hit the like button and subscribe to the new tourist channel to become part of our community if you haven't yet done so. Russia has been strengthening ties with West African countries battling insurgencies, and Burkina Faso is one of them. Burkina Faso has been under the military leadership of Ibrahim Traore since 2022. Since then, the country has played host to contingents of the Wagner mercenary forces, whose founder, Yevgeny Prigozhin, was killed in a plane crash in August 2023. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov says they have been closely engaged in all areas of cooperation, including the development of military and technical ties since their very first contact with President Ibrahim Traore. Growing Russian security ties with Africa in countries like Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger, where military leaders have seized power in coups, are a source of concern to the United States and other Western governments. Lavrov spoke at a news conference in Burkina Faso's capital, Ouagadougou, while on the third leg of his latest trip to Africa on June 4, after Guinea and the Republic of Congo. Russia is seeking to shore up support from Africa amid Moscow's full-scale invasion of Ukraine. This is because many African countries have expressed frustration with their traditional Western powers, such as France and the United States. In his opening remark at talks with President Traore, Lavrov hailed rapidly growing relations between both countries, which he attributed to agreements reached at the second Russia-Africa summit last year. Minister Lavrov also held talks with his counterpart, Karamoko Traore, Minister of Foreign Affairs, Regional Cooperation, and Burkinabes abroad. The two personalities confirmed their intention to intensify bilateral interactions in various areas, with a focus on cooperation in trade, economic, and humanitarian spheres, as well as improving the legal framework. Many Russian instructors have been working in Burkina Faso, and the number will continue to multiply. Russians say the remaining terrorist groups in Burkina Faso must all be wiped out. Russia has deployed an additional 1,000 private military contractors to bolster Traore's forces. These contractors are expected to provide specialized training, intelligence, and combat support to Burkina Faso's army in its fight against terrorism. The Russian government has also delivered a fresh shipment of heavy weapons, including main battle tanks, armored personnel carriers, and artillery pieces. This military hardware is intended to beef up Burkina Faso's firepower and mobility as it confronts attacks. Russia is ready to provide more support to Traore for the just cause of Africans who are trying to free themselves from the shackles of neo-colonialism. Burkina Faso is a landlocked country with over 20 million inhabitants. The country has been ravaged for the past 8 years by violence from extremist groups closely affiliated with Al-Qaeda and the Islamic State group, and from the fighting between government forces and the militants. Burkina Faso has gone through 2 coups in just 10 months, the second last year, after which a military junta threw out French forces and turned to Russia for security support. The junta is still managing to contain the security and humanitarian crisis in the country. According to the Norwegian Refugee Council's statistics and findings, Burkina Faso tops the list of the world's largest neglected crisis for the second year in a row. Some 6.3 million out of 20 million people are said to be in need in 2024. Many among this number suffer from starvation, while about 2 million, 60% of whom are children, are internally displaced. A good number of Burkinabés have been traumatized, but resources to help them are scarce. It came to our notice that Western governments have been withdrawing financial aid from Burkina Faso and other countries in the Sahel, a region encompassing states on the fringes of the Sahara Desert, and this has contributed to the vicious circle of poverty, violence, and extremism. So far in 2024, hundreds of civilians have already been killed in attacks, including around 170 in some 3 villages and approximately 30 in separate mosques and church attacks in February. Western powers have warned for years now that both Russia and China are working to build influence in Africa. In 2019, the former head of the U.S. Africa Command, General Thomas Waldhauser, also said that Russia was using mercenaries and arms to gain access to natural resources in Africa. It is evident Russia appears to be renewing overtures in the African continent. Lavrov has lauded Traore and Burkinabé officials for their effective assistance in resolving issues that allowed Russia to resume their activities at the embassy in Ouagadougou after 31 years of closure. Burkina Faso has gained much from collaborating with Russia. Some of the most evident aspects so far include military and security assistance, economic ties, and geopolitical leverage. By partnering with Russia, Burkina Faso has tried to counterbalance Western influence in the region and has diversified its international alliances beyond traditional powers like France, its former master. Now, let us look at some potential long-term effects of Burkina Faso's growing reliance on Russia. Some international relations experts have highlighted that, as Traore deepens its partnership with Russia, his country risks completely damaging relationships with Western countries like the US, France, and the United Kingdom. This could lead to a reduction in development aid, economic investments, and diplomatic influence from the West. Over time, Burkina Faso may become very dependent on Russia for military, economic, and political support, making her more vulnerable to Russian pressure and interference. Russia's involvement in Burkina Faso is even leading to the destabilization of the volatile security of the Sahel area. Military support and the presence of private contractors can further exacerbate local conflicts and fuel resentment among the population. There are worries that Russian support will embolden the military junta to crack down on dissent and civil liberties in Burkina Faso, as Russia itself has a poor record on human rights. Aligning too closely with Russia is seen as antagonizing to Islamic militant groups operating in Burkina Faso. If this persists, the country may always be a great target for attacks. Careful navigation strategies are needed to manage the risks that stem from Russian involvement in Burkinabé affairs. While evaluating options for international partnerships, Burkina Faso should consider factors like respect for sovereignty and non-interference, security and counterterrorism, economic development and investments, sustainability, regional dynamics, human rights, and access to diverse supports. Maintaining a diversified portfolio of international partnerships can help Burkina Faso avoid overdependence on a single country or power bloc. The country also needs to evaluate the long-term commitment and dependability of potential partners, not just their immediate offers of assistance. The Traore regime may be inclined to seek out partnerships with countries that share its skepticism towards Western liberal democracy and its willingness to challenge the global order. Partnerships that can deliver much-needed economic aid, infrastructure development, and foreign direct investment are crucial for Burkina Faso's long-term stability and prosperity. Given the pressing security threats from Islamic militants, Traore needs to prioritize partnerships that can provide effective military assistance, intelligence sharing, and counterterrorism capabilities. A Russia-Africa Partnership Forum has been scheduled for November this year in the city of Sochi. We have come to the end of this video. Russia's increasing involvement in Burkina Faso comes after Traore's government has grown increasingly reliant on Moscow's backing since the October 2022 coup. Faced with limited support from the West, Traore has doubled down on his strategic partnership with President Putin. While the Russia-Traore partnership may provide short-term benefits for Burkina Faso, the long-term consequences could be detrimental to the country's stability, economic development, and international standing. That is why wisdom and caution must be applied to avoid any disastrous future. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, subscribe to the New Tourist channel, and share it with your family and friends. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.